Are you exhausted? Feel like you're running on empty? But no matter how hard you try, the rest you crave seems just out of reach? Maybe you're waking up tired, your mind racing, your heart heavy. If that sounds like you, I need you to hear me. You're not alone. There's a peace, a rest that's waiting for you. It's not found in a vacation or in a bottle, but in something deeper, something promised. In Psalm 23, we're reminded that God offers us exactly what we need: rest. So right now, stop scrolling. Take a deep breath. Let's pray this together. Let's bring our weariness to the feet of the one who restores our souls. The Lord is our shepherd, and he wants to lead us beside still waters. Do you feel that pull? That need for something more than just sleep? It's time to experience God's peaceful rest. Let's think about that for a second. The Lord is our shepherd. Now, I don't know about you, but there's something so profound about that imagery. The shepherd doesn't just tend to the sheep. He knows them intimately. He sees every detail, every need, every weakness. The shepherd doesn't let his flock wander aimlessly, exposed to danger. No, he leads them, protects them, and provides. In Psalm 23, we're told that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That means we're not left to figure things out on our own. We're not abandoned to our struggles, our fears, or our fatigue. The shepherd sees us in our brokenness, in our confusion, in our exhaustion, and he makes a promise: you will lack nothing. When you're tired, he has what you need. He's not just watching from afar, he's walking right beside you, guiding you. Imagine that for a moment. You don't have to do it alone. Rest isn't just about closing your eyes, it's about trusting the one who will never leave you in the dark. You've probably heard the phrase green pastures and still waters a million times. It almost sounds too peaceful to be real, right? But in Psalm 23, God promises us exactly that. A place of rest that's not just physical, but spiritual. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Can you imagine it? Green pastures where you can finally let go of the weight of the world. No more chasing, no more striving, no more hustle. Just peaceful fields where you can rest without guilt or pressure. And those still waters, oh, they're a balm for the soul. When life is chaotic and everything around us feels like a storm, God is offering us stillness. Waters that don't rush, that don't overwhelm. Waters that soothe, that quiet the mind. Do you ever feel like you're drowning in your own thoughts? The noise of life just too much to bear? God doesn't promise to take away the struggle entirely, but he does offer a space where, in his presence, peace stills the storm inside of you. That peace is what restores us, refreshes us, and gives us the strength to keep going. Just like a shepherd leading sheep to water, God is leading you to a place of rest and renewal where his calmness can wash over you. Let's talk about soul restoration for a minute. You've heard the phrase, soul tired, right? It's that feeling where no matter how many hours you sleep, no matter how many cups of coffee you drink, your soul still feels worn out, depleted. That kind of exhaustion is something only God can heal. And in Psalm 23, he promises to restore our souls. He restores my soul, it says. It's not just physical rest we need, it's a deep spiritual renewal. Sometimes we feel like we've given everything we have, like we've poured out so much of ourselves into others or into our work, and now there's just nothing left. Nothing but dry, cracked ground inside of us. But God, the shepherd, doesn't just leave us there. He restores us. That means he fills us back up. He breathes life into places that have been emptied out. Think about it. God doesn't just see your exhaustion. He knows exactly where you're broken, where you're aching, and He's the only one who can heal those wounds in your soul. In the Bible, we see so many examples of God healing the brokenhearted. In Ezekiel, He promises to give us a new heart, a heart that is strong, that isn't weighed down by past pain or regrets. We see this with David, the man who was anointed to be king, but lived through years of running, hiding, and facing betrayal. Yet, in Psalm 23, he writes these words from a place of knowing that God has a way of taking our broken pieces and turning them into something beautiful. When you're exhausted, when it feels like life has taken everything from you, God says, "Come to me and I will restore you." This isn't just a nice thought, it's a promise that no matter how far we feel from peace, God can bring us back. He can restore what feels lost. Now, let's get real for a second. Life isn't always going to be green pastures and still waters. Sometimes we find ourselves in dark valleys, places that feel like they'll swallow us whole. Maybe you're walking through a tough season right now and the weight feels too much to carry. Psalm 23 doesn't sugarcoat this part. It says, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." This isn't just a poetic line, it's a raw, honest reality. The valley of the shadow of death is not some distant, abstract idea. It's the real struggles we face: sickness, loss, heartbreak, anxiety. It's that feeling like everything is falling apart and you're not sure how to keep going. But here's the truth: fear doesn't get the final word. Not in this psalm, and not in your life. Even in the darkest places, even in the most uncertain, painful moments, God promises He will be with us. In those moments, His rod and His staff are not just symbols. They are tools of protection, of guidance. He uses them to lead us through the valley. And notice what happens when we walk with Him. We will fear no evil. It's not that we won't face danger or that the valley won't be real, but that God's presence in the midst of it all makes the fear shrink in comparison. You don't have to be afraid of what's ahead because the one who holds your future is walking beside you, right there in the darkness, guiding you every step of the way. Think about the story of the disciples in the storm, where they were terrified, convinced they were going to drown. But Jesus was right there with them, calming the storm and telling them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" That same presence is with you today. Even in your hardest, darkest moments, you don't have to face it alone. God is with you, and that's where the peace comes from. That's how we find rest, even in the valley. Let's dive deeper into this idea of God's presence with us, especially in the hardest times. Psalm 23 is clear. His rod and staff comfort us. Now, I know rod and staff don't exactly sound like the most comforting things, right? We think of a rod as something harsh or something used to punish. But in this case, it's not a tool of anger. It's a symbol of protection and guidance. When a shepherd uses his rod, it's not to strike the sheep, it's to protect them from predators, to gently guide them back when they wander off. It's the reassurance that even when you're lost, God isn't going to let you stay there. He's going to lead you back to safety. He's going to comfort you. Think of it like this. You're curled up on a couch on a cold night, and someone throws a thick, warm blanket over you. It wraps around you, holds you tight, and suddenly you're not cold anymore. The discomfort melts away. That's what God's comfort is like. It's not a distant, passive kind of comfort. It's a closeness. It's Him wrapping His peace around you, even when life feels heavy. In the Bible, we see countless stories of God's comforting presence. Remember Elijah? After he was defeated and running for his life, exhausted and in fear, God didn't scold him. He didn't give him a lecture. Instead, God gave him rest, food, and gentle words. He showed up in a way that Elijah needed most, right there, in his tiredness. That's the kind of comfort we're talking about. It's not just about calming your fears, but about holding you close in your brokenness. God's comfort isn't some vague idea. It's a tangible presence. He's offering you that right now. Now let's move into something incredible that Psalm 23 speaks about. A table prepared for us in the presence of our enemies. That might sound a little strange at first, right? Why would God prepare a feast for us right in front of those who oppose us? But stay with me here because this is powerful. Psalm 23 says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." The table represents provision, abundance, a place of rest and security. But notice where it is. It's not in some hidden, safe corner where we can't be found. It's right in the presence of those who want to bring us down, those who would harm us, those who mock us or betray us. God doesn't promise to remove the struggles or the enemies from our lives. He doesn't say, "I'll take away every person who's hurt you." But he does promise to prepare a table, a place of peace, a place where his provision, his love, and his protection surround you. While others are focused on their schemes, you're being invited to rest in his abundance. It's like a spiritual banquet, and it's not dependent on what's going on around you, but on what God is doing in you and for you. Think about David for a moment. As a young shepherd, he had enemies all around him, lions, bears, and later, King Saul, who wanted to kill him. Yet God provided in ways that defied the circumstances. When David was being hunted, when his life was in danger, God made sure he was never without provision. David faced constant opposition, but in the midst of it all, God made a table of peace and rest for him. That's exactly what God is offering you right now. Peace that doesn't depend on what others do, but on what God is doing for you. There's something incredibly beautiful about the next part of Psalm 23. You anoint my head with oil. To be honest, it might not sound all that exciting at first, but stick with me. In biblical times, anointing with oil was a sign of honor, of being chosen, and of healing. It was something done for kings, prophets, and those who had been set apart for a special purpose. It was a sign that you were not forgotten. When God says he anoints your head with oil, he's doing something profound. He's declaring that you are his, set apart for a purpose, deeply loved and cared for. He's not just seeing you as some random soul in a crowd. No, he's choosing you, and he's honoring you. And let's not forget the healing aspect of oil. In the Bible, oil was also used to soothe wounds, to bring relief, to restore. For the weary, for those bruised by life's battles, God promises a healing touch, a balm for your brokenness. Think about how David, before he became king, was anointed by the prophet Samuel. He wasn't the obvious choice. He wasn't the tallest or the strongest, but God saw him, chose him, and anointed him with oil as a symbol of his favor. In that moment, David's life changed. He went from being a humble shepherd to being set apart for greatness. You might feel overlooked, unnoticed, or beaten down by life, but God is here today saying that he's anointing you too. He's honoring you, even when the world doesn't seem to notice your worth. And just like that oil, his touch will heal the wounds you carry, whether they're emotional, spiritual, or physical. You are chosen. You are loved. You are worthy of his touch. Here's where things get really powerful in Psalm 23. My cup overflows. That phrase is dripping with richness, and if you really let it sink in, it changes everything. Imagine you're sitting at a table, and the cup in front of you isn't just filled halfway, or even just to the brim. No, it's overflowing, spilling over the edges, dripping with abundance. This isn't about barely getting by. This is about God's abundance in your life, more than enough to meet your every need, even when the world around you feels like it's in short supply. Sometimes, when you're exhausted and weary, it can feel like you're running on empty, like there's no more to give, no more hope, no more strength. But God doesn't just provide what you need. He goes above and beyond. His provision is abundant, overflowing. It's a picture of grace upon grace, more than we deserve and more than we could ever ask for. Take the story of the widow in 1 Kings 17. She was down to her last meal, about to give up, but God told her to prepare a meal for the prophet Elijah. And when she obeyed, God's provision never ran out. Her jar of flour and jug of oil never ran dry. This is the kind of God we serve, the one who provides beyond our wildest expectations. Even when we think we're out of resources, out of hope, He is able to make our cup overflow. This promise in Psalm 23 is for you today. Even when you feel like you've reached your limit, God is inviting you into His abundant grace. Your cup isn't just filled, it's overflowing with His goodness, His peace, His love. When life feels scarce, He's calling you to see the abundance He's offering, to trust that there's more than enough. And when you drink from His cup, you'll never thirst again. Let's pause here for a moment and really soak in what comes next in Psalm 23. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I want you to take a deep breath and let that sink in. Goodness and mercy are following you. That's not just a nice sentiment, it's a guarantee. In a world where so much feels uncertain, where we face trials that can knock the wind out of us, God gives us this promise: His goodness and mercy will follow us. But here's the thing: God's goodness isn't just a vague, abstract concept. His goodness is active. It's His favor, His provision, His kindness that pursues you. And mercy? It's God's forgiveness, His love that covers you even when you fall short, even when you feel like you don't deserve it. It's a constant, relentless pursuit of grace in your life. Think about the story of the prodigal son. He took his inheritance, wasted it, and ended up destitute and broken. But the moment he turned back toward home, his father saw him from a distance, ran to him, and showed him mercy, even though he had squandered everything. That's the goodness and mercy that follow us. Even when we wander, even when we make mistakes, God is right there with His arms wide open, ready to welcome us back. He's not waiting to punish us, but to bless us, to restore us, to guide us home. That's the kind of God we serve. And that's the promise in Psalm 23. Goodness and mercy will follow you no matter where you go. Whether you're walking through valleys or standing on mountaintops, His goodness is chasing after you. His mercy is covering you. You're not walking through this life alone. His love is following you every step of the way. Now, let's look at the final promise in Psalm 23. And I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. There's something incredibly comforting about that last line. When everything else in life feels temporary, when it seems like nothing lasts, this is eternal. Forever. That's a long time. It's not just a passing season or a quick fix. It's a promise of lasting peace, lasting security, and a forever home in the presence of God. This verse gives us a glimpse of true rest. Not just the kind of rest you get after a long week of work, but the rest that comes from knowing you are secure in God's presence for all eternity. We're not just talking about a brief respite here and there. This is forever peace, the kind of rest that no one can take from you. And let's think about what it means to dwell in God's house. This isn't just about a physical space. It's about living in His presence, abiding in His love, being at home with Him. In the Bible, a house represents a place of safety, protection, and relationship. When David says he will dwell in the house of the Lord, he's talking about an intimate relationship with God. It's not just a one-time visit, it's a lifelong residence. Imagine living in a place where you never feel out of place, where you are fully accepted, fully loved, and fully at rest. That's the promise God gives us. No matter how chaotic your life might be right now, there's a forever place for you in God's house. You can rest in the security of His love, knowing that you're home and that this rest will never fade. So no matter how restless you feel right now, take comfort in the fact that God is preparing a place for you where peace will never end. There's something incredibly personal about God's invitation to rest. In the middle of everything you're going through, God doesn't shout at you to stop and rest. No, He gently calls you. Like a shepherd softly calling his sheep to green pastures, He's offering you a moment to breathe, to surrender the weight of the world, and just be still. In Matthew 11, verse 28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." This is not a command, it's an invitation. And it's an invitation with no strings attached. You don't have to everything right before you come. You don't have to have it all together. You just need to come. You just need to stop and let God take the weight off your shoulders. Think about it. Jesus, the King of all, invites you into His rest. And let me tell you, there is no rest like it. There's no peace like the kind that comes from surrendering to Him. No comfort like the one He offers in those quiet moments when you let go and let Him lead. It's a rest that's not just physical, but deeply spiritual. A rest for your soul, for your heart, for your mind. You don't have to be constantly striving, constantly running. In His presence, you find the rest that truly satisfies. So right now, can you hear that gentle call? God is inviting you to rest. Will you answer? Let's talk about the one thing that makes rest so difficult sometimes. Waiting. It's so easy to get anxious, to feel restless when we're in a season of waiting. We wait for answers, for change, for something, anything that feels like movement. We want things fixed, healed, and settled. But waiting doesn't always feel restful. In fact, it can feel like torture sometimes. But rest doesn't always mean inactivity. Sometimes rest is learning to trust God's timing in the middle of the waiting. In Psalm 23, there's this beautiful rhythm of movement. God leads us beside still waters. He guides us to green pastures. But did you notice something? He doesn't rush us. He doesn't drag us along at a frantic pace. Instead, He leads us. He knows the right moment for us to lie down and rest, the right time for us to move forward. In Isaiah 40:31, it says, "But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." There's that promise again. God gives us strength in the waiting. His timing is perfect, even when we don't understand it. Take a moment and think about the Israelites. They spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness, waiting for the promised land. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, But through that waiting, God was teaching them to trust in Him. And when the time came, they stepped into the promise, not just physically, but spiritually stronger than they'd ever been. Sometimes the rest we're searching for isn't in the answers we want or the results we expect. It's in the trust that God knows what He's doing, that He's guiding us with purpose, even when it feels like we're stuck. So, if you're in a waiting season, know that even in this moment, God is giving you rest. Trust His timing. He's got a plan, and you are right where you need to be. Rest isn't always about just stopping. Sometimes it's about letting go. And that's hard, right? We're conditioned to think that if we don't control everything, it'll all fall apart. We hold on tight to our plans, our expectations, our need to fix things. But Psalm 23 shows us something radically different. We don't have to hold on to everything. God is in control, and that's where our rest begins. In the verse that says, "He makes me lie down in green pastures," there's a surrender to God's leading. He makes us lie down. That means we don't always get to dictate the terms. Sometimes, God has to stop us in our tracks. He has to tell us, enough. It's time to rest. Letting go is hard. Surrender feels like a loss of control. But in reality, surrendering to God is where we find true freedom. When we let go of the illusion that we can do it all ourselves, that we can keep it all together, we open ourselves up to God's peace. A peace that doesn't come from controlling the situation, but from trusting Him with it. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He prayed, "Not my will, but yours be done." In that moment, He surrendered everything, His own desires, His fear, His plans. And what happened? God gave Him strength to face what was ahead. The rest Jesus found didn't come from avoiding His pain or running from the cross, but from trusting that God's plan was better, even in the hardest moments. The rest you're longing for, the peace you're searching for, it's in the surrender. Let go. Trust that God has it. You don't have to hold it all together because He's holding you. Here's a hard truth. A lot of us are waiting for peace. We think, I'll have peace once I get through this tough season. Or I'll find rest when life slows down. But here's the kicker. Peace is not just a future promise. It's something you can experience right now. In Psalm 23, God's rest doesn't just come when everything's perfect. It's found in the present moment, right in the middle of your chaos and struggle. The psalm says, "He leads me beside still waters." Notice it doesn't say He will lead me or He might lead me. It's a present tense promise. God is leading you right now. Even in the mess, even in the confusion, He's offering you rest in the here and now. The peace of God isn't something that's only available in the someday when your problems are solved. It's available today, in the middle of your struggles. Jesus said in John 4:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you." That's not peace that's dependent on your circumstances. That's peace that transcends them. It's peace that says, even though life is overwhelming, I'm still with you. It's peace that calms the storm within you, even when the storm around you rages on. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, or the perfect solution to find peace. God's peace is available to you right now, in this very moment, as you sit, breathe, and open your heart to Him. The rest that God offers isn't postponed until your life is perfect. It's for you today, right where you are. Here's something that might surprise you. Rest is found in worship. I know worship sounds like something you do on Sundays, right? Sing a few songs, pray, then go back to the chaos. But worship isn't just an event. It's a lifestyle, and it's one of the most powerful ways to experience God's rest. Psalm 23 doesn't just tell us that God provides rest. It invites us to dwell in His presence, to be near Him. And when we truly worship, we enter that place of peace. Think about it. When you're worshiping, whether through music, prayer, or even in quiet reflection, you're focusing on God's greatness, His faithfulness, and His promises. Suddenly your problems, your stresses, your fears, they shrink in comparison to the vastness of who God is. And in that shift, peace comes. You find yourself resting, not in your circumstances, but in the truth that God is bigger than everything you're facing. Psalm 104 tells us, "Enter His gates with thanksgiving, and His courts with praise." That's an invitation to come into God's presence, to let go of your worries and let your heart focus on His goodness. When we do that, it's like we're laying our burdens down at His feet and saying, "God, I trust You. I trust that You're enough." Think about how David, the author of Psalm 23, was a man after God's own heart. Not because he was perfect, but because he lived his life with a heart of worship. Even when life was falling apart, when he was running for his life, hiding from enemies, he turned to worship. And in doing so, he experienced God's peace, God's comfort, and the rest that only comes from being in His presence. So the next time you're feeling weary, when the world is pulling at you from every side, take a moment to worship. Whether it's a psalm, a prayer, or simply sitting in silence, allow yourself to rest in the presence of the One who is always with you. Worship isn't just an act, it's a way to receive the rest that God is offering you. Rest isn't just about catching your breath. Sometimes it's about being transformed. We often think of rest as something we need to escape from our problems, but God's kind of rest is much deeper. It's a rest that actually changes us, that shapes us from the inside out. Psalm 23 isn't just a promise of a peaceful moment. It's a promise of restoring our souls, of God making us whole, even in the middle of the struggle. When David talks about being led beside still waters and lying down in green pastures, he's not just describing physical comfort. He's describing the transformation that happens when we allow God to lead us. Think about it. The more we rest in God's presence, the more we become the person He's created us to be. When we surrender our anxious hearts, when we stop running on empty and allow God to refresh us, He begins to renew our spirit, to change us from the inside out. It's like a deep soul-level detox where we get rid of all the noise, all the stress, all the things that weigh us down, and we're left with peace that lasts. In Romans 12 verse 2 it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." God's rest isn't about escaping reality, it's about being transformed in the midst of it. The process of resting in God is what changes us. It takes us from anxiety and weariness to peace and strength. And that transformation happens through surrender, through letting go of the things that are draining us, and allowing God's peace to fill those empty spaces. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or like you're running on fumes, don't just try to rest to get back to your old self. Rest in God's presence to be transformed into the person He's calling you to be. A person of peace, of faith, of trust. This kind of rest isn't about escaping the world, it's about changing how we live in it. And when we rest in His presence, we're never the same. One of the deepest kinds of rest we can experience is the rest of faith, trusting that God has our future in His hands. Life can be full of uncertainty, and sometimes that uncertainty can steal our peace. We worry about what's next, what we can't control, what might happen tomorrow. But God calls us to rest in the assurance that He holds all things, including our future, in His hands. Psalm 23 is full of promises of provision, guidance, and protection. And all of that boils down to the fact that God knows exactly where you are, what you need, and where you're going. When you rest in the truth that God is leading you, you can stop running in circles trying to figure it all out. You don't have to carry the weight of your future because He's already there. You don't have to stress about what's ahead because He's got it covered. In Jeremiah 29:11, God says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." When you know that, really know it, it brings a deep sense of rest. You're not walking into the unknown alone. You're walking with the one who knows what's best for you, who has a plan that's bigger and better than you can imagine. Think about the Israelites again. When they left Egypt, they didn't know what their future would look like. The journey was long, the challenges were real, and there was so much uncertainty. But God led them every step of the way. Even when they had no idea how they would survive in the desert, God provided. They didn't have to worry about the next step. God had it covered. And He's doing the same for you. Trusting in His plan for your life is one of the most powerful ways to experience rest. So when you're tempted to stress about tomorrow, remember, God is already there. And in that truth, you can find peace today. We can't talk about rest without talking about the power of prayer. Prayer is one of the most intimate ways we can experience peace and rest in God. When you pray, you're not just talking to the air. You're bringing your burdens, your weariness, your fears directly to the one who can do something about it. Psalm 23 paints a picture of the shepherd who is always near, always guiding, and always ready to hear your heart. And when we bring our concerns to God in prayer, we are allowing Him to take that weight from us. It's not just about asking for things. It's about surrendering our anxious hearts and allowing His peace to settle in. Jesus invites us to bring our burdens to Him in Matthew 11:28, where He says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." What a powerful invitation. You don't have to carry your burdens alone. You don't have to figure it all out by yourself. The shepherd is waiting, arms open wide, inviting you to lay everything down at His feet. Prayer is not only about asking for peace, it's about receiving it. It's about exchanging your worry for His rest. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, when He was overwhelmed with sorrow, about to face the cross. He prayed. He poured His heart out to the Father, and even in that intense moment of struggle, He found rest in God's will. Prayer was His way of saying, "I trust you, Father. I trust your plan." And when we pray, we do the same. We rest not in having all the answers, but in trusting the one who holds all the answers. So take a moment today, right now, to pour out your heart to God. Bring your weariness to Him and let Him give you rest. As we wrap up this time together, I want to remind you of one simple yet powerful truth. Rest is found in God's unfailing love. Psalm 23 is not just a beautiful passage. It's a declaration of how deeply God cares for us, how intimately He knows us, and how He offers us a rest that is unshakable, no matter what life throws our way. You don't have to wait for everything in your life to be perfect to experience God's peace. His rest is available to you today. In the midst of your struggles, your weariness, your brokenness, You can experience His peace right now by trusting in His promises, resting in His presence, and surrendering to His will. So if this prayer and meditation on Psalm 23 has been a blessing to you, I encourage you to come back to it whenever you need a reminder of God's care. Take a moment to rest in the fact that He is with you, leading you, guiding you, and preparing you for what's ahead. Remember, His goodness and mercy are following you every day. And no matter what you're facing, He is right there, offering you the peace that only He can give. If you found peace in this video, I invite you to hit that like button, share this with someone who needs rest, and subscribe for more prayers and encouragement. Let's keep walking this journey of faith together. Rest in God's love, and know that He is always with you.